So back down here at the shop tonight, went out to our local speed shop, bought a bunch of parts, a bunch of fuel system stuff for our pocket change Mustang, the spare change Stang. This guy right back here, it don't look like much because it's really not. It's a 1993 hatchback that's going to be Ford powered. I know you LS guys love that stuff. Everybody gives me a hard time about the Ford stuff. I played with it for a many year, went to the LS stuff, didn't look back. So then I decided, you know what, let's put a Ford motor back in a Mustang and see what we can do. Trying to go 10s on a stock bottom N302, see what happens.
Alright, this is the turbo we plan on putting in there. It's an on-3 turbo. It's a 78-75 with a T4 flange in it. We intend on putting this thing right down here in this hole. We got a short radiator on it. Edge of the radiator goes to right here, so we should have plenty of room. This little pump here from highflowfuel.com. This is an in-tank and a stock tank. Has a 340 pump on it. Has an 8 feed, a 6 return. Like it says, it goes in a stock tank. That way you can run a fuel gauge and you still have your back of your hatch to put some stuff. And when you're doing events like we do, it's nice to be able to carry something. But this ought to work out pretty good for us, I think. We're going to try to run on E85 and just we'll see what happens from there. All right.
So Scott, we got fuel system stuff going in, new pump. What's the plan of attack on like routing the lines and everything?
All right, so what we got is, like the dude said, the 340 pump in tank. We're going to run an 8 feed, 6 return. And what we're doing right now tonight is we're putting the 6s on all the corners and 90s. We're going to mount the regulator down here somewhere. Not really for sure yet. And then we're going to send it on back. Plan on running 85 on here. Car doesn't make a bunch of power, but we want it safe. It's probably a good idea.
So you got some nice Russell Red Horse fittings. We're going to go 8 in, go to the back, loop here to the front. What's this thing hanging up here? You're going to cut that out, right?
And I was hoping you wouldn't see that. So what that is, that's power steering.
You put power steering in a turbo Fox body?
Yeah, we're one of few. We do a lot of the drag and drive events, so we want to be comfortable on the road. Sometimes you hit them corners with that manual rack, kind of sucks. Kind of want to be able to do one of these numbers.
Do the easy lean.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so getting power steering, getting this going. Got fuel line coming in, nice some aluminum fuel rails. What kind of injectors are we dealing with?
This car here, we're doing some Simeons and Decas 80s, just for that E85.
Yeah, be able to pump enough corn into her, hopefully squeeze some 10s out of her before she blows.
Definitely. Actually, we're actually on a Holly too, so we have the tuning capability that a lot of people don't. So we can either, you know, turn her up, turn her down, and fly the switch. You ain't worried about that A9L nonsense. We don't have a PMS in here. That Holly Terminator does everything.
Been good stuff for our LS cars for sure.
Definitely. You and I both know that the Holly Terminators have their place and they work really well. So we went ahead and bought one for this car. Probably the most expensive thing on this car, honestly.
So I see you're holding the regulator there now.
Yeah, so we've got this sweet boost reference regulator, and we need to figure out, you know, where we actually want to mount it. You know, we've got lines coming across, and then obviously we got your return line. I'm thinking probably something like this is going to be the best bet. You know, we've got headers coming down, so they'll be out of the way if we move it back. So I think more than likely this is where we're going to end up.
It's a pretty familiar spot from our LS turbo cars, so I think it's a good choice.
Yes, correct. Actually, if you guys know, my LS turbo car is mounted in the same location, just on that side. And it worked out great. But being the Ford motor and everything that's going on, I've got a big problem with this side. Now, granted, y'all see the brass fitting here. It's just for test purposes. We will have a correct fitting on all 4 corners. But right now, we just have some cheap, you know, hold our place fittings. We will get good stuff. But with that said, the lines come across, come in, we're going to shoot down. I think this thing is going to make some power. I don't know, no way, what do you think?
If it's anything like your previous builds, I think you know what you're doing. So make it down the track at least.
Oh, we'll make at least one pass. Maybe two if we're lucky.
Alright, I think Scott finally found a drill bit that wasn't unsharpened.
Got a couple of pilot holes here for our bracket. We'll zip her on down and see how that regulator fits over here.
Alright, I think Scott found enough adapters to get this thing mounted.
Now you gotta have enough adapters to do every job. So we decided we're gonna go ahead and put the regulator right over here. We think that's enough room to go ahead and swing into the fuel lines and give us enough room for the return line without being in the way of the header. Alright, so we're back down here again with the spare change Stang. Did have to run out and get some more fittings for our fuel system here. As you can see, I think it's somewhere over here, maybe. There we go. The regulator, we had to get some new fittings for it so we can try to make this work a little more seamless. The 90s that I had grabbed didn't quite work for what we were wanting. So we go ahead and move in here. Oh, you can see we ended up putting like a modified 180 on the back of there. Put a straight coming across. What we're trying to do here is come from this guy right here over this guy here and over, so this way be a lot more seamless. The 90s we had would have worked, but it just wouldn't have looked right. Now granted, a lot of the stuff I do isn't all about looks, it's all about speed, power, having fun. But you know, we kind of want to clean this one up, make it look good. We also went ahead and moved a little more seamless deal down here and put this 90 back so we can reroute that return line in a better position. It came down, got a little closer from the header than I liked, so we went ahead and did that. Probably getting ready to set up here so I can measure out some hoses and get this stuff cut. Check that out in just a second. We're outside here at the QPS. Now that we've got our fitting in there on the ice, what you want to do with the other side of the hose is go ahead and heat it up. We're using a hair dryer, stole it from my wife. You guys can do the same thing. Take it from your wife, your old lady, your boyfriend, don't matter. Just get a hair dryer, get some heat to it. So once you heat that side and then cool the other side, you can just slip that fitting right in there, and it ain't going nowhere. I've had those on my car for a few years, haven't had a single lick of problem with them. Let's go ahead and leave that thing on there for, you know, 5 or so minutes, just get a little bit of heat to it. And then in the meantime, once that heats up, you can take your cold fitting, throw it in your vise or whatever, get it cinched down, then you can just slide that guy right on there. You'll see that here in a second. Alright, so we got H1 getting ready to grab here into our little cooler mod here. He's going to grab the fitting out of here. I'm going to run out and grab the hose that we got heating up out back here. Now he's going to go ahead and cinch this thing down into the vise, and he's just going to push her on home. This is probably the best method there is for the push lock hose. It's great. It works really good. Look at that. How do you feel about that, H1?
It's not too bad.
Not too bad. I mean, we're going to take this car on multiple road trips and a bunch of 10-second passes. Feel good with it?
Yeah, I think it'll hold.
We got these fuel lines in place here. H1 does a good job, made us some nice little lines that come across. Now we got to look at this Ford here. Unlike the LS stuff that I do, the fittings that go into this intake, I don't know if I can zoom in there on those or not, but so you got a place in the intake, and what we got here, went into the local O'Reilly's, got one of these Edelman pieces. They're down there in the Edelman side, 3/4 way down the left hand side. Picked one of those up, fits our temp sensor. Now I got the O'Reilly's Master Pro version here, works pretty good. Used them on a lot of the cars. This car here, we're going to use all the factory gauges with this swap. Should be pretty straightforward with it being the 302 and everything. Unlike the Holly stuff in my other car out there, with the LS we had to kind of add, fab, do a bunch of different stuff. But we want all the gauges working, and we got to know what's going on as we're moving down the road. So we'll go ahead and stick that guy in place.